We're claiming objectives and knocking out champions. That's right, it's Godtear from Steam Forged Games. In this tactical tussle of titans, two players each take on the role of opposing teams of champions, seeking to harness the energy of the celestial Godtears. Over a series of turns, each player earns victory points for claiming Godtears. The first player to gain 5 victory points wins the game. Setup begins with an agreement between the players. Choose the number of champions, anywhere from 1 to 4. For your first game, it's best to start with just 1 champion on each side, but a standard game has 3 champions per side, so we'll set up for that. Each player then selects their champions and takes the associated model and cards, along with their follower models and cards. For each champion in the game, the owning player takes a dashboard, placing the cards on the appropriate slots. The champion stat card on the left, the ultimate and trait card in the middle, and the follower card on the right. Next, set the battlefield center. The battlefield is divided into hex spaces and includes a battle ladder along the side. Choose a scenario, selecting from a range of options beginning on page 25 of the rulebook. We're setting up for the life scenario for our first game. We place the objective hexes, the Godtears, on the spaces shown in the scenario listing. Randomly determine who's first player for turn 1, and their opponent is known as second player for this turn, naturally. Each side of the battle map has rows of deployment hexes as indicated in that scenario setup. The first player chooses a side of the map they'll play on for this game and places their warband on a space as indicated on the scenario. The second player does the same on the opposing side. Set the turn 1 token in the middle of the battle track on the space closer to the first player's warband token, and set the remaining turn tokens next to the board. Finally, players deploy their models in the deployment hexes of their side. The first player deploys a champion and their followers, and the second player follows suit. Repeat this process until players' entire warbands have been deployed. Units must go in empty deployment hexes, but up to 3 small follower models from the same unit can share a hex at a time. Before we dive into gameplay, let's look at a champion's dashboard, which holds those 3 cards with stats, traits, and skills. The champion's stat card contains the champion's name, its stats, speed, dodge, protection, and health. A phase icon. The stat card starts on the plot phase side. And a list of skills. Skills have a name, target type, range, accuracy, damage, and special rules. The plot and clash sides of the stat card contain different skills, applicable at different phases of a turn. The ultimate and trait card contains the champion's origin, the champion's class, either Slayer, Maelstrom, Shaper, or Guardian. Each class gains a bonus during gameplay for various actions. An ultimate skill, which can only be activated once per game, and traits, which act as passive abilities. Now this card has 2 sides as well. One is for the ultimate skill ready to use, and one for when it's been expended. The follower card is just like the champion stat card, but where the champion's icon was in the top right, an indicator of the starting and maximum number of followers in the unit is there. Above the cards are spaces for boon and blight tokens, which are the benefits and detriments applied during the game, and a space for wound tokens for the champion. Gameplay occurs in turns, each divided into 3 phases: plot phase, clash phase, and end phase. First up, in the plot phase, the first player activates each champion and each follower unit within their warband. I'll explain exactly what an activation is shortly. The second player then follows suit. Gameplay then proceeds to the clash phase, where the first player activates 1 champion or 1 follower unit in their warband. The second player follows suit. Players alternate activating 1 at a time until all champions and units have activated, then play would proceed to the end phase. Okay, activations. When activating, the player chooses one champion or follower unit in the warband. They may then take up to 2 actions with that champion or follower unit. A specific action can only be used once per activation, but some skills and traits may trigger bonus actions. After they've taken their 2 actions, the player flips that champion or follower card to its other side, showing they can't activate it again during this phase. Actions include Advance, which allows the champion model or all models in that follower unit to move a number of hexes up to its speed stat. Remember that up to 3 small followers of the same unit can share a hex. Additionally, when a champion enters a hex which contains an enemy banner, they remove that banner from the battlefield. Skill, which allows the champion or follower unit to use one of their skills. This action can be used multiple times in an activation as long as each specific skill is only used once. If the champion uses their ultimate skill, they flip their trait card to the depleted side. We'll review skill specifics in a sec. Claim. If a champion is adjacent to an empty objective hex, they may use this action to place their banner in that space. These banner placements will benefit the player during the end step. Rally. If a champion is ever knocked out, it must use this action before continuing the battle. The rally actions remove all wound tokens from the champion. Recruit. This follower-only action can be used if there are fewer follower unit models on the battlefield than their maximum. Recruit allows the player to place one model in a hex adjacent to its matching champion. If there are no available adjacent hexes, the follower is then placed on a deployment hex. And that's the actions. Let's look at the skills. When using a skill, the player must first designate a target that matches the skill's icon. Target types include itself, a friendly champion or follower unit, an enemy champion or follower, or a specific model or hex as described in the skill. The target must also be within range as expressed in a number of hexes on the skill listing.
When using a skill targeting an enemy,
that player rolls a number of dice equal to the accuracy value. They count the successes and compare them to the target's dodge stat. If the successes are equal or exceed the dodge, the attack hits.
In that case, any hit effects from the skill are applied and then damage is rolled.
The player rolls a number of dice equal to the damage value. The number of rolled successes is subtracted by the target's protection stat. For each remaining success, 1 wound is applied to the target's area of the dashboard. Skills can have status effects such as boons, which provide bonuses like stat increases or additional dice on accuracy and damage rolls. Blights are the same but provide penalties. All of these are signified by tokens which are placed on a model's area of the dashboard when applied. If a model receives wound tokens equal to its health stat, it is immediately knocked out. No additional wound tokens may be placed on its area of the dashboard. When knocking out a champion, the player who knocked out the model may then move it up to 2 hexes. The knocked out champion stays on the battlefield but loses all its status tokens. Once it rallies, it can remove the wounds and take other actions once again. Knocked out followers are removed from the battlefield and can only be returned with a recruit action. During the turn, as champions clash and claim, a number of events will move the turn token on the battle ladder. If a player knocks out an opposing champion, they move the turn token 4 steps toward their side. If they knock out a small follower, they move 1 step or 2 steps for a large follower. Taking a claim action during the plot phase earns them 1 step.
For each banner on an objective hex during the end phase, the owner scores 4 steps.
Let's look at the end phase. After players have completed the clash phase by activating all their champions and follower units, the end phase begins. Both players count the total number of their banners on the battlefield, applying 4 additional end phase points for each. If a Guardian class champion's banner is in play, that banner earns 5 end phase points. If one player's end phase points exceeds the others, they earn the difference in steps on the battle ladder. The player who has the turn token closer to their side wins the turn. They flip the token and add that victory point number to their personal total. Each scenario lists a specific in-phase step. Follow those instructions to complete the turn. Finally, the second player now chooses if they wish to be first or second player in the next turn. Reset the turn token to the middle of the battle ladder, closer to the new first player, and a new plot phase begins. Some other awesome features of Godtear: classes. The 4 classes in the game each gain a bonus step on the battle ladder when they accomplish a certain task. Slayers gain a bonus step when they knock out an enemy champion. Maelstroms when they eliminate an enemy follower. Shapers when they make a claim action. And Guardians if they keep their banner in play until the end phase. Godtears. These objective hexes are an area of extremely powerful energy. Only champions may enter these spaces. If they do, when an opponent's banner is on the objective hex, that banner is removed. The starting positions of the objective hexes are based on the chosen scenario, and they usually change position throughout a game. Since up to 3 small followers can share a hex, there are additional benefits and drawbacks to their placement. Multiple followers on a hex may all be affected by an enemy skill that targets their hex. But some small follower skills also provide bonuses for the number of models in the hex when activated. Each row in the skill applies to the number of small followers in the hex, either 1, 2, or 3. Play continues for a maximum of 5 turns, with players duking it out, claiming objectives, and punishing followers. As soon as one player reaches 5 victory points, the game ends and they win the game. And that's the basics of Godtear. I'm Becca Scott, this is Good Times Society, and you better give this video a thumbs up because I'm giving you one for making it all the way through the video. Also remember to subscribe to this channel, follow us on social media at Good Times Society, and come on back here for more great games and good times. We'll see you later.